Hello, I am Kelsey Kowalczyk, and I am presenting the pilot study conducted by BridgePoint Center for Eating Disorder Recovery regarding the effectiveness of the online eating disorder treatments. So, for this presentation, we are going to work our way through some background information and then talk about some details regarding the pilot study, including the objectives, hypotheses, study design, data analysis, results, and conclusion. So, first, just for some background information, eating disorders are lifelong serious illnesses that affect approximately 1 to 3 million Canadians. Now, eating disorders affect many aspects of one's life. In the DSM 5, diagnoses can include anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorder, and atypical. Now, treatment of eating disorders are imperative, especially during times of COVID-19, as these disorders have the greatest rates of mortality than any other mental illness. And again, especially due to the COVID-19 pandemic, access to treatment has been limited, and therefore, finding effective treatment is very important. Now, BridgePoint Center for Eating Disorder Recovery utilizes a holistic biopsychosocial community based therapy approach for treating eating disorder patients. Due to the COVID 19 pandemic, adaptations had to be made, and therefore, two online treatment platforms were developed. First, the online 2-day virtual retreat, and second, the weekly 2-hour deep dive sessions. Online treatment is necessary, especially in unprecedented times such as COVID 19. Therefore, the online treatment effect for treating eating disorder patients needs to be examined and determined for future use. And therefore, BridgePoint needs to determine the efficacy of the online treatment platforms. Recent research has been coming out, such as the examples you can see here, regarding the efficacy of online treatment for eating disorders. The pilot study had two objectives. The first objective was to determine the effectiveness of the 2-day virtual retreat to treat eating disorder patients, and the second objective was to determine the effectiveness of the weekly 2-hour deep dive sessions to treat eating disorder patients. Based off of the objectives, our hypotheses are as follows. First, the online 2-day virtual retreat will be effective at treating eating disorder patients. And second, the online weekly 2-hour deep dive sessions will be effective at treating eating disorder patients. Moving on to some details of the pilot study design. The pilot study was a field research mixed method survey. Data was collected by non-probability purposive sampling. A total of 92 participants were recruited and completed the surveys between June of 2020 and June of 2021. The data collected for both the virtual retreat and the weekly deep dive sessions can be seen in the table provided. Moving on to the data analysis. In order to test our hypotheses, a descriptive summary approach was used for the quantitative data for both the 2-day virtual retreat and the deep dive sessions. Percentages, medians, and interquartile ranges were calculated in response to the rating interval questions where appropriate. The percentages to the responses will be presented to display the satisfaction the online program had for treating eating disorder patients, answering hypothesis 1 and 2. The qualitative data was analyzed by thematic analysis using MaxQDA 2018. Thematic analysis followed Braun and Clark's 2006 5-stage process, following 1. Familiarization with the data by initially reading, 2. Generating codes and coding the data, 3. Collecting the codes into themes, 4. Defining and labeling themes, and 5. Selecting illustrative quotes. So here I am showing the percentage breakdown of responses for the self-assessment survey for the virtual retreat participants. Generally, the personal gains self-reported by participants were positive with a median of 4.09 out of 5. The percentage breakdown for the participants can be seen here. As displayed, a majority of participants agreed with the personal statements made in the survey. As we can see, 52.6% believe their story of who they are, their capabilities, and how they want to show up in the world increased. 52.0% believed that after the 2-day virtual retreat, they had increased the tools integral in recovery. 49.5% also viewed their resiliency and their adaptability to stress had increased following the virtual retreat. As well, 59.2% believe that their knowledge and insight increased following the virtual retreat. Majority of participants, approximately 58.2%, believe their self-awareness and perspective increased due to the retreat, and 57.1% agreed that their hope for the future and recovery increased following the virtual retreat. So as we can see here, majority of responses were very positive. So here I am showing the program assessment survey in response to the virtual retreat. Generally, the program evaluation survey reported positive responses with a median of 3.75 out of 5. And as again, I am showing the percentage breakdown of responses for this survey. So majority of participants, approximately 62.2%, believed that the facilitator knowledge during the virtual retreat program exceeded their expectations. Additionally, participants, approximately 50%, believe that they gained tools and skills vital in their recovery. 54.1% of participants also saw an increase in relevant content regarding eating disorders during the virtual retreat. 51.2% of participants believed that the presentation methods exceeded expectations for the online platform, and 61.2% of participants found the overall quality of the online virtual retreat exceeding their expectations. So, again, the online virtual retreat received a majority of positive feedback. Here I am showing the quantitative results for the deep dive program. Now, for the deep dive program, only the program assessment survey was conducted. So for this, the program received mostly positive results with a median of 3.7 out of 5. Now, the percentage breakdown as shown, 63.1% of participants rated the facilitator knowledge during the weekly deep dives to exceed their expectations. 56.2% of participants believed that the tools and skills gained were vital in their recovery and was shown throughout the deep dive sessions. 56.6% believe that relevant content was presented and retained. Now, in direct regards to the online platform, majority of participants, approximately 63.9%, rated the overall quality of the program to have exceeded expectations, and 50% of participants also rated the presentation methods to exceed expectations. So again, the deep dive session received a majority of positive responses. So for the qualitative data, uh, both the virtual retreat and the deep dive sessions displayed similar themes through thematic analysis, and therefore that was combined into one result in which I am displaying here. So the three main themes were identified following analysis of free text responses, coding, and then forming themes. The three themes identified for both the virtual retreat and the deep dives included first, continuation of treatment, second, understanding and direction, and third, importance of community. Participants in both the virtual retreat and deep dives indicated the drive and need for continuation of treatment due to behaviors and consistency, the impact BridgePoint programs have for their recovery, the impact each facilitator has in their recovery, and the accessibility of the programs provided. The second theme, identified through thematic analysis for both the virtual retreat and the deep dive, was the drive for understanding oneself and the need for recovery direction in which BridgePoint was vital in providing. The need for understanding and direction was met through the knowledge and education BridgePoint provides regarding eating disorders, including tools to add to the recovery toolbox, the insight regarding the self, the importance of vulnerability, and the increased accessibility to this knowledge. The importance of community for individuals with eating disorders stemmed from a sense of belonging, connection to others, and the need for support. Those with eating disorders feel the stigma that accompanies the disease. A platform in place, such as BridgePoint, allows for group settings in which one can feel a sense of belonging and can be comfortable, even through the online platform. Now, here I am highlighting some direct quotes taken from participants' qualitative survey responses in order to display the themes identified. Now, if you want to take some time to read through these quotes, feel free. This pilot study aimed to investigate the effectiveness of the online platforms offered by BridgePoint for treating eating disorders. As a reminder, the first objective was to determine the effectiveness of the virtual retreat, and the second objective was to determine the effectiveness of the deep dive sessions. The quantitative data collected provided insight to the participant ratings of both the virtual retreat and the deep dives. Again, majority of participants rated the program as exceeds expectations or meets expectations for both the deep dives and the virtual retreat. The qualitative data collected allowed for a more holistic, richer understanding of participants' online experience. It is interesting to note that the themes identified throughout the qualitative thematic analysis are key components for eating disorder recovery, reflecting the impact and efficacy of BridgePoint's programs even online. Factors such as accountability, connection, community, knowledge, tools, understanding the self, vulnerability, belonging, and support, which all constituted the three themes, are all critical components of a recovery journey. These findings suggest that the online programs provided individuals with the critical tools, information, and support needed during the recovery process. This highlights the efficacy of the online programs offered. Last, accessibility was a common connection between all three themes identified. The online treatment option was highlighted throughout the qualitative data, making treatment available for those with lower socioeconomic status, those that may have difficulty attending in person, those with conditions such as a disability, which may limit travel, or even those who may experience other conditions such as social anxiety. The online program was able to provide a safe, private space for individuals to access treatment, and therefore, both the virtual retreat and deep dive sessions were found to be effective at treating eating disorder patients. Overall, this study can add to the literature around the efficacy of online treatment for eating disorders. This is a treatment that should be continued to be investigated and is now another option or another tool that BridgePoint may be able to utilize even when in person returns due to the accessibility and the positive feedback obtained.